When the FIFA World Cup kicks off, billions of people around the globe stop what they're doing to watch the greatest sporting spectacle on earth. From packed stadiums to crowded living rooms, football becomes the center of attention. Yet for Indian football fans, the beginning of every World Cup brings back a familiar and painful question. Will India ever play at the FIFA World Cup? It's a question that has followed Indian football for decades. Every 4 years, as the world's best teams battle for glory, Indian supporters once again find themselves watching from the sidelines. The country's national team, known as the Blue Tigers, has never progressed beyond the preliminary stages of the Asian qualifying campaign. While nations across Asia continue to improve and compete on the world's biggest stage, India remains absent from the tournament. For many football followers in the country, this question has almost become a cliché. It returns during every World Cup cycle, sparking debates about what went wrong, what could change, and whether India can ever become a serious football nation. What makes the situation particularly fascinating is the contrast between India's World Cup absence and its enormous passion for the sport. Despite never qualifying, several Indian states live and breathe football. In West Bengal, football has been woven into local culture for generations. In Kerala, fans gather in huge numbers to support their favorite international teams. In Goa, football often rivals cricket in popularity. During the World Cup, streets are decorated with flags from Brazil, Argentina, Germany, Portugal, and other footballing giants. Giant cutouts of international stars appear in towns and villages. Matches are watched late into the night by millions of dedicated supporters. In many ways, India celebrates the World Cup with the same enthusiasm as countries actually competing in the tournament. The passion extends beyond ordinary fans. Every World Cup now attracts a growing number of Indian journalists, broadcasters, and content creators who travel across the globe to cover the competition. Despite India having no direct stake in the tournament, Indian media presence at World Cups continues to grow. One experienced Indian football journalist who has covered multiple World Cups joked that foreign reporters often ask whether India even plays football. He explained that many people around the world know India primarily as a cricket nation. When journalists discover that India has a football media contingent covering the World Cup, they are often surprised. For many outsiders, India and football are still not naturally associated with one another. Yet the reality is that football's popularity in India has increased dramatically over the last 2 decades. European leagues attract millions of viewers. International stars have huge fan bases. Social media discussions about football are constantly growing. The problem is not a lack of interest. The problem is translating that passion into success on the field. India is not alone in facing this challenge. Even China, the world's second most populous country, continues to struggle to establish itself as a football power. Despite significant investment and a much larger football infrastructure, China has only qualified for the World Cup once, back in 2002. Like India, it remains one of the sport's biggest untapped markets. FIFA understands this reality very well. For football's governing body, countries such as India and China represent enormous opportunities for growth. Hundreds of millions of potential viewers, consumers, and future players live in these markets. That is why FIFA pays close attention to broadcasting deals and media coverage in these countries. In fact, before the current World Cup, FIFA reportedly worked hard to ensure that Indian audiences would have access to live coverage of the tournament. The organization recognizes that even though India is not participating, millions of Indian fans remain deeply invested in the competition. This creates a fascinating paradox. India is one of the largest football audiences in the world, yet its national team remains far away from football's biggest stage. The good news is that there are reasons for optimism. The expansion of the FIFA World Cup to 48 teams has created more qualification spots than ever before. Asian nations now have a greater chance of reaching the tournament. Countries that previously struggled to qualify suddenly find themselves with a realistic pathway to the World Cup. For India, this represents perhaps the best opportunity in its history. However, qualification will require significant improvements. Youth development must improve. Domestic football structures must become stronger. Coaching standards need to continue evolving. Most importantly, the country must consistently produce players capable of competing at the highest international level. The passion already exists. The fan base already exists. The market already exists. What India needs now is footballing progress that matches its enormous potential. For generations of Indian football fans, the FIFA World Cup has been a celebration mixed with frustration. Every 4 years, billions of people around the world gather to watch the greatest tournament in sports. Nations dream of glory, players chase immortality, and supporters proudly watch their countries compete on football's biggest stage. Yet one nation of more than 1.4 billion people continues to watch from the sidelines. India. The question returns every World Cup cycle. Will India ever play at the FIFA World Cup? For many supporters, it has become the most painful and enduring question in Indian football. Yet despite decades of disappointment, some of the biggest names in the country's football history still believe qualification is possible. Former Indian captain and football icon Baichung Bhutia is one of them. Bhutia, widely regarded as one of the greatest footballers India has ever produced, insists that reaching the World Cup is not an impossible dream. In fact, he believes recent changes to the tournament format have created opportunities that did not previously exist. With the FIFA World Cup expanding from 32 teams to 48 teams, Asia now receives significantly more qualification spots. 8 teams qualify directly, while additional opportunities exist through intercontinental playoffs. For countries that traditionally struggled to qualify, the path has become less daunting. Bhutia points to nations such as Jordan and Uzbekistan, both of whom reached the World Cup for the first time in the expanded format. If they can do it, why not India? But Bhutia is also realistic. He argues that qualification will not happen through luck, slogans, or short-term planning. It will require years of serious work. According to him, India's biggest problem is not a lack of talent. A country with more than 1 billion people is naturally capable of producing gifted footballers. The real issue lies elsewhere. India lacks the football ecosystem necessary to consistently identify, develop, and nurture young talent. While football is the world's most popular sport, India's development structure remains far behind many competing nations. The foundation of football success has always been youth development, and Bhutia believes India has neglected this area for far too long. His concerns are shared by another legendary figure in Indian football, Shyam Thapa, one of the heroes of India's bronze medal-winning team at the 1970 Asian Games, has spent decades observing the sport's decline and missed opportunities. Now in his late 70s, Thapa remains passionate about the future of Indian football. For him, the solution begins with children. The former striker, famous for his spectacular bicycle kicks, believes that India must dramatically increase participation at grassroots level. The more children who play football, the greater the chances of discovering future stars. It sounds simple, but Thapa argues that India has failed to build a system capable of attracting enough young players into the sport. And he identifies a major obstacle: cricket. Over the last 2 decades, the explosion of the Indian Premier League has transformed cricket into one of the most lucrative careers available to young athletes. Parents increasingly view cricket as a pathway to financial security and fame. As a result, many talented children who might once have played football are instead enrolling in cricket academies. Thapa has witnessed this trend firsthand through his own youth academy. He believes many Indian families fail to realize that football can also provide professional opportunities and financial rewards. In countries across Europe, South America, and increasingly Asia, football has become a highly profitable profession. Yet in India, the perception remains that cricket is the safer and more rewarding option. This creates a vicious cycle. Fewer children choose football, the talent pool becomes smaller, the national team struggles, and football remains overshadowed by cricket. But even if India successfully expands participation, another challenge remains. The standard of competition across Asia continues to rise. A glance at the teams representing Asia at the current World Cup reveals just how difficult qualification has become. Australia is there, Japan is there, South Korea is there, Iran is there, Saudi Arabia is there, Qatar is there, Iraq is there, and for the first time, Jordan and Uzbekistan have joined them. These are not accidental qualifiers. They are nations that have spent years investing in coaching, youth development, infrastructure, and professional leagues. Most importantly, they are significantly ahead of India in the FIFA rankings. Uzbekistan currently sits inside the world's top 60 nations. Jordan is not far behind. India, meanwhile, has fallen dramatically. After a series of disappointing results, the country now finds itself outside the top 130 nations in the world. That ranking is more than just a number. It reflects the enormous gap that India must close if it hopes to compete with Asia's best teams. Even the leadership of the All India Football Federation has acknowledged this reality. When Kalyan Chowbe became the first former footballer to assume the presidency of the federation in 2022, he deliberately avoided making unrealistic promises. Rather than guaranteeing World Cup qualification within a specific timeframe, he spoke about gradually improving Indian football. It was a cautious and sensible approach. But nearly 4 years later, many observers are questioning whether meaningful progress has actually occurred. Instead of moving confidently forward, Indian football has experienced repeated setbacks. One of the biggest concerns involves the future of the Indian Super League. When the league launched in 2014, it was hailed as a revolution. Backed by major businesses, Bollywood celebrities, and cricket stars, the competition brought unprecedented professionalism and visibility to Indian football. International stars arrived, television audiences grew, optimism flourished. For a moment, it seemed as though Indian football had finally found its breakthrough. Yet today, that optimism has faded. The league's future has become uncertain. Commercial challenges have created instability, sponsorship interest has declined, and delays to recent seasons have damaged confidence. Hundreds of players, coaches, and staff members have faced uncertainty about their futures. What was once presented as the cornerstone of India's football revolution now faces serious questions about its long-term sustainability. Meanwhile, many of the federation's grand promises remain unfulfilled. Among them was the ambitious Vision 2047 project, which aimed to bring tens of millions of children into football. At the time, the announcement generated excitement. Today, critics argue that the initiative has produced little visible impact. The gap between ambitious targets and actual results appears wider than ever. To be fair, there have been moments of progress. In 2023, the Indian national team enjoyed a brief resurgence. Victories in regional competitions helped India climb back into FIFA's top 100. Supporters began dreaming again. For a moment, it appeared that the team might qualify for the third round of Asian World Cup qualifiers for the first time in history. But those hopes quickly faded. The team ultimately fell short. Even more disappointing was its failure to qualify for the next AFC Asian Cup. For many analysts, that setback was particularly damaging. Before India can dream about the World Cup, it must first establish itself as a regular participant in Asia's premier competition. Former captain Sunil Chhetri has repeatedly emphasized this point. One of India's greatest ever players, Chhetri has always advocated realistic goals rather than unrealistic promises. His argument is simple: India should focus on consistently qualifying for every Asian Cup. Doing so would expose players to stronger opponents, higher pressure matches, and valuable international experience. Only after establishing itself among Asia's top 15 or 20 teams should India seriously discuss World Cup qualification. In many ways, this represents the most sensible roadmap available. Walk before you run. Master continental competition before chasing global dreams. Yet there may be another opportunity on the horizon. For years, Indian football officials have pushed for changes that would allow overseas citizens of India, known as OCI card holders, to represent the national team. Currently, players with Indian heritage who possess foreign passports face major restrictions. To play for India, they must often renounce their existing nationality. This has prevented numerous talented players from representing the country. The potential benefits are significant. At this very World Cup, several players of Indian origin are representing other nations. Some play for Australia, others represent New Zealand, Qatar, and Congo. These players demonstrate that football talent connected to India already exists on the global stage. If regulations change, India could dramatically expand its talent pool almost overnight. The success of Australian-born Ryan Williams after switching allegiance has already provided a glimpse of what might be possible. Would such a policy transform India into a World Cup team overnight? Certainly not, but it could accelerate progress and provide valuable depth in key positions. For now, however, these possibilities remain hypothetical. The reality is that India still faces a long and difficult journey. The country possesses immense potential. It has a massive population, a passionate fan base, growing football culture, and increasing exposure to the world's best leagues. Yet potential alone does not win matches. Potential must be converted into structures, academies, coaches, competitions, and opportunities. Until that happens, Indian fans will continue to experience the World Cup as spectators rather than participants. They will celebrate the brilliance of players like Messi, Ronaldo, Mbappe, and the next generation of global stars. They will admire the achievements of smaller nations that have somehow reached football's biggest stage. And perhaps no example is more striking than Curaçao, a tiny Caribbean nation with a population smaller than many Indian cities. A country that has achieved what India still cannot. Its presence at the World Cup raises an uncomfortable but unavoidable question. If Curaçao can do it, why can't India? The answer remains complicated, but until Indian football finds it, the dream of seeing the Blue Tigers at the FIFA World Cup will remain exactly that. A dream, one shared by millions, one still waiting to become reality.